Keith here on UROM 1. Today I want to discuss the topic of a rare overheat problem cause that a lot of times gets overlooked, and people really have a difficult time determining why either their heater's not working, their engine is overheating, or both. And a lot of times what happens, well, I'm not going to say a lot of times, actually I've only run across this a handful of times over 50 years, but this impeller on this particular water pump is a very good example of what occurs. It may be difficult to see it at this angle, but there's very little left of the impeller on this water pump. What has happened is apparently it didn't have antifreeze put in it at some point, and it had pure water, and it just caused rust to deteriorate slowly over time and made this impeller go away. I have another water pump here. It's not the same type of impeller, but the impeller is still intact. And what you can see here is it's still all there. You can see the blades are standing up in such a way that they will move the coolant through the system. In this particular one, it's just like there's just a disc left, and it's just going to spin and not move any of the coolant. So it looks like, if you're not looking really closely, it looks like it's there mostly, but it's not. It's supposed to turn, and where it turns and goes up, they're completely gone. They should be sticking up. And then as it turns, it will move the coolant. Now, there are other conditions that can cause overheating. Usually people will choose to address the cheapest, if they don't know what's going on and just don't have any idea, they'll a lot of times replace the thermostat first, because a lot of times it's the easiest thing to do, and the parts cost the least amount of money. So that's the number one thing people look at. Another thing they look at sometimes is, of course, the water pump if it's leaking. If the antifreeze level's low, that'll cause it, and you can temporarily fix that by adding antifreeze, depending on how fast it's leaking out. Now, there are other things that can happen. I've run across a very unique position one other time where someone had put their own radiator on, and there were some caps on the radiator to keep, I guess, dirt daubers out at the factory or whatever, if it sat in the warehouse, and they had failed to remove one of the caps. It was the same color as the radiator, and they didn't really notice it, and they shoved the hose on over it, and of course that restricted, just like this would, that restricted the coolant flow. So those are things that can happen. There are other things. There's more expensive things like head gaskets, but generally you'll have either water in the oil or you'll have steam coming out the exhaust. And steam coming out the exhaust in some parts of the country is normal to a certain extent where there's high humidity. So I wouldn't jump to that conclusion, but you can take the cap off where you put the oil in, and if there's a lot of milky looking substance up there, it's a pretty good indication that there could be a head gasket leaking, getting coolant into the oil. Now, one other thing I've run into one time, a guy was really, he just brought it in and said, I want you to put the thermostat, the water pump, he put everything, the radiator, and that was his request, and he was diagnosing himself, and it was a Jeep, and he really liked it. And so he said, I think it's had enough miles on it, I want these items on anyway. So I did what he asked. I put the parts on for him and didn't fix it. So I said, I was even scratching my head about it. I said, you know what, this doesn't make a lot of sense. It was obvious the head gasket wasn't leaking, but what he did do later is, one of the things that I've had very few people do is come back and report to me what they found out. They get it fixed and they forget about it. But it's nice to know occasionally, you know, when people will come by and tell you what they found out, especially when it's something crazy and off the wall and you hadn't run into much. But what he told me was that his catalytic converters were restricted and causing it to overheat. I hadn't really ran across that one before that I knew about. And so when he came back and told me that, I thanked him profusely. I said, thank you very much, because people rarely ever come back and tell me something like this. So here you go. Number one, you got an overheat problem. Check your thermostat, check your flow. Okay, your radiator, look in there and see if there's a bunch of corrosion that's causing the tubes in the radiator to get restricted. And that's hard to see on a lot of today's radiators. They're developed in such a way that it's hard to look down in them. So those are the things that can happen. This one here I've had happen maybe 3 or 4 times in 50 years. Very rare. I just wanted to tell you about it. If you're just scratching your head, you've already put a thermostat in. You don't want to spend a lot of money. I don't know. Some of these water pumps are easy to access. Some of them not so easy. But this is a possibility. Is your impeller, it may, number one, be rusted to the point that it's not pumping anymore. There's just not enough of it left. Or I have run into one occasion that I can remember for sure where the shaft was spinning inside instead of turning the impeller. that can happen. It's a very rare thing, but it does occur. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. If you would, I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. If you would click on that bell. Hey, click on the like if you like it. If you dislike it, I can understand that. Not everybody likes the same thing, so be honest, and I'll respect that. Thank you very much. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day.